I've never been the jealous type. I didn't need to be. My wife, Taylor, was the kind of woman who held herself with a certain power, the one who could control a room just by walking in. That was her energy, electric, magnetic, almost dangerous in a way, but she was mine. I never had a reason to doubt that. Until the night everything went off the rails. That night started off regular as hell. I was out with my buddy Rob, having some beers watching the game. Taylor had flown out for another one of her work conferences earlier in the day. She didn't bother calling before she left, which wasn't unusual anymore. Her texts had been basic. Landed. Meetings all night. Same old stuff. No sign of anything weird. No red flags that would have tipped me off to what was coming. If anything, I figured the space was good. We hadn't exactly been in sync lately. Lots of little things building up, unspoken tension. But I wasn't worried. We'd had our fights before, and we always came back together. This time felt no different. Around 10 p.m., I was about to grab another round when my phone buzzed. At first, I thought it was just some work email or another useless notification. But when I glanced at the screen, I saw a text from an unknown number. You might want to see this. No name, no context, just a link. My gut twisted immediately. I almost didn't open it. Thought it was some scam or phishing nonsense. But something about the timing, about that gut feeling you get when the world's about to flip made me click on it. The link took me to a live stream. The screen flickered for a second, and there it was. A hotel room I didn't recognize, but her sitting on the edge of the bed, laughing with a guy I'd never seen before. She wasn't wearing anything but a t-shirt and her underwear. Hair pulled up, looking far too comfortable. But it wasn't the sight of her half-dressed that sent my mind into a tailspin. It was the way she looked at him, the way she touched his arm, the way they moved around each other like they'd done this before. And she was laughing like she didn't have a care in the world. The guy leaned over, whispering something into her ear. She smirked, then glanced at her phone. My phone buzzed again. Another message from that same number. You're not the only one she's lying to. I froze. I couldn't move. My head was spinning, and my hands shook as I tried to process what I was looking at. I wanted to throw my phone across the room, but I couldn't stop staring at it. My wife was practically having an affair in front of my eyes, and I didn't even know who sent me the damn video or why. And then, as if fate wanted to twist the knife just a little deeper, she called me. Right there, in the middle of that live video, her name popped up on my screen like this was just any other night. I stared at the phone, her face lighting up my screen, mocking me with her fake normalcy. I answered it. My voice was calm, too calm, almost detached from my own body. Hey babe, what's up? And what she said next shattered any last piece of calm I had left. Hey Jake, listen, I know this is going to sound crazy, but don't freak out. I'm in a bit of a situation. I sat there staring at the video of her in that room with him, hearing her voice like she was about to give me some ridiculous explanation. But before she could finish, I cut her off, words leaving my mouth before I even thought about it. I already know Taylor. I'm watching you right now, live from that hotel room. So whatever you're about to say, don't even bother. There was a pause, a long stunned silence on her end, and then she laughed like I just caught her in some prank. Oh, you're watching? So what? What are you going to do about it? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Not only had she been caught, but she wasn't even pretending to be sorry. If anything, she sounded amused. My blood boiled. Her laugh hit me like a slap to the face. I'd been bracing for anything. Tears, apologies, excuses, but not that. The sound was cold, sharp, as if she didn't give a damn that I was on the other end of the line watching her in that sleazy hotel room with some guy I didn't know from Adam. Are you serious right now? I asked, my voice shaking. You think this is funny? Jake, relax, she said, her tone dripping with condescension, like she was talking to a child throwing a tantrum. Don't make this bigger than it is. It's not what you think, not what I think. I repeated, my voice rising. I was seconds away from exploding, but I held on barely. Taylor, I'm watching you sit in a hotel room with another man, half-dressed, laughing. What the hell am I supposed to think? She sighed, the kind of exasperated sigh you give when you're over someone's drama. It's just work, Jake. Calm down. We're blowing off some steam after a long day of meetings. You seriously need to stop jumping to conclusions. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Work. She was still trying to gaslight me, to pull the same manipulative crap she'd been pulling for months. Like I was too stupid to put 22 together. But this time I had the proof right in front of me, and still. She had the nerve to act like I was the one being unreasonable. Work? I repeated, incredulous. Is that what you're calling it now? I'm literally watching you right now. Some stranger sent me the link, Taylor. Do you even understand how messed up this is? For the first time, her voice shifted. There was a crack in her usual cool composure. What do you mean someone sent you the link? Who sent it? I don't know. I snapped. Does it matter? The point is I saw you, Taylor. I'm seeing it all right now. There was another long pause. I could hear her breathing, and in the background, the guy in the room with her mumbled something. Her tone changed, sharpening into something more vicious. Jake, listen to me. Whatever this is, it's not your business. You're overreacting. I told you it's work. It's just a little fun after hours. Nothing more. But now her words sounded defensive, like she was trying too hard to downplay it. My heart pounded, and my palms were slick with sweat as I tried to make sense of it all. How had I been so blind? How had I missed this side of her for so long? Or maybe I hadn't missed it. Maybe I just hadn't wanted to see it. You're unbelievable. I muttered. How long, Taylor? How long have you been lying to me? Her response came quick and sharp like a knife and straight in my gut. Does it matter? You're not exactly innocent in this, Jake. Don't act like you've been the perfect husband. I was stunned. She was actually flipping this on me. Me? I hadn't even had a chance to process the betrayal before she was already blaming me for it. What the hell is that supposed to mean? I asked, my voice rising again. I've never cheated on you. I've never lied to you. What exactly have I done to deserve this? She scoffed. Oh, please. You think you've been this saint? You're always working, always distracted. Half the time you're not even here. You don't get to act surprised when I find someone who actually pays attention. Her words hit me like a freight train, each one a fresh blow. I could feel my pulse pounding in my temples, anger surging through my veins. She was blaming me for her cheating, for her lies. This was beyond anything I could have imagined. I thought I knew her, but this was a side of Taylor I'd never seen before. Cold, ruthless, itchy even, like she didn't care at all. So that's your excuse? I said, my voice low, barely holding back the fury. Because I work to keep this house running, because I try to give us a good life that gives you a free pass to do whatever the hell you want. Don't be so dramatic, she spat. Maybe if you'd been paying attention, you'd see that this marriage has been over for a while. You were just too busy to notice. The way she said it so casual, like she was discussing the weather. It was like she was stripping away every layer of what we'd built, reducing our entire relationship to nothing more than a side note in her life. And in that moment I realized she didn't just stop caring. She didn't care at all. Not anymore. I sat there in stunned silence, trying to hold it together as my world unraveled right in front of me. But then she dropped the final bomb. You know what, Jake? Maybe you should just stop watching. There's nothing left for you here. And with that, she hung up as I sat there for what felt like hours, staring at my phone. Her words echoing in my head like a twisted mantra. There's nothing left for you here. Nothing left. How could she just say that? Like the last 8 years, our life together meant nothing. It was as if she'd flicked a switch, and suddenly I was a disposable piece of furniture. Something she no longer needed or cared for. My mind raced in 1,000 directions at once. Anger, disbelief, hurt. They all tangled together in a tight knot in my chest. The video was still playing, and I watched her stand up, grab a bottle of wine from the mini fridge, and pour 2 glasses, handing one to the guy like she didn't just eviscerate me over the phone. They clinked their glasses together, her laugh audible echoing through the screen, and I snapped. I hurled my phone across the room, and it shattered against the wall. The impact should have been satisfying, but all it did was leave me in the wreckage. Physically, emotionally, mentally. I stood there breath heavy, fist clenched, and all I could think was I need to do something. I couldn't just sit here broken while she was out there living like nothing happened. No, I needed answers. I grabbed my keys and stormed out of the house, adrenaline pumping through my veins. My first instinct was to drive to her office, confront someone, anyone who might know what the hell was going on. I needed to find out who the guy was. If this had been going on under my nose for months, years even, I had to know how deep this betrayal went. But halfway down the street, my phone, my backup, the old one I hadn't touched in years, pinged. I had synced it with my accounts years ago, and it still picked up notifications. There, glaring on the screen, was a message from that same unknown number. My stomach lurched. I pulled over and opened it. Thought you'd like to know where they're headed next. Attached was another link. This time, I didn't hesitate. I clicked it, and what I saw made my blood boil even hotter. It was a screenshot of a text conversation between Taylor and her mystery man. It was short, but enough to tell me everything I needed to know. Taylor, leaving the hotel soon. Meet you at the club. Him, of course, babe. Don't keep me waiting. Babe. That word felt like a punch in the gut. She used to call me that. Now she was using it for some guy whose face I couldn't even make out in the video. My mind flashed to the times she called me babe out of habit, wondering if she was thinking of him instead of me. And now, they were going to some club like they were just a regular couple out for a night of fun. No guilt, no shame, no remorse. Couldn't let it slide. Not this time. I floored the gas pedal, heading straight for the address the stranger had texted me. I didn't even know how this person knew all of this, how they had access to her messages and videos, but right now I didn't care. Whoever they were, they knew something I didn't. They knew everything, and I wasn't going to sit in the dark anymore. As I sped through the streets, weaving in and out of traffic, my mind replayed everything. Every little moment that I'd ignored, every excuse she made, every lie she fed me, wrapped in that sweet smile of hers. The work dinners that never seemed to end. The last-minute trips she swore were essential for her promotion. The cold distance that had crept into our bed night after night until it felt like we were just two strangers sharing space, pretending at a life that had already crumbled. I pulled up to the club, heart pounding in my chest. The thump of the bass from inside, syncing with the throb of rage in my head. I didn't even hesitate. I walked straight in, scanning the crowd, looking for any sign of her. People were dancing, laughing, lost in their own worlds, oblivious to the storm brewing inside me. My phone buzzed again. Another message. She's in the VIP section upstairs. Look for the black dress. I pushed my way through the throng of bodies, my pulse quickening with each step. The upstairs VIP area was roped off, guarded by some bouncer who gave me a quick glance before letting me through. I must have looked like I belonged there, because I sure as hell didn't feel like it. I was seconds away from losing my mind. And then I saw her. There she was, draped across a velvet couch in the corner, laughing, drink in hand, with him sitting too close, his arm draped casually around her shoulders like he had every right. Taylor looked up mid-laugh, and her eyes locked on mine. For a moment, everything froze. Her smile faltered. Her eyes widened, just a fraction. Enough for me to see that she wasn't expecting me to be there. She was caught again, but this time there was no phone screen between us. No distance. I was right in front of her, watching it all unfold in real time. The air around us crackled with tension, the kind that threatened to explode any second. Her first reaction wasn't fear or guilt. It was annoyance. She rolled her eyes, set her drink down, and stood up like she was dealing with a petulant child interrupting her night. "What are you doing here, Jake?" I didn't even recognize my own voice when I spoke. The anger so thick it felt like acid in my throat. "What am I doing here?" "I should be asking you that, Taylor. How long has this been going on?" The guy stood up now, looking at me like I was some joke, like he was untouchable. "Hey man, calm down. This isn't what it looks like." I didn't even look at him. My eyes were locked on Taylor, waiting for her to say something. Anything, but she just crossed her arms, gave me that same cold, dismissive look she had over the phone. Like she didn't owe me an explanation at all. "Jake, you're making a scene. Just go home." Those words, so casual, so heartless, pushed me over the edge. Her words hit me like a slap across the face. Go home? Like I was some stray dog she could just shoo away. Like I wasn't standing there watching her draped over this guy, making a joke out of everything we'd built. Something inside me snapped, and the room, the music, the people, all of it faded into the background, drowned out by the ringing in my ears and the fury boiling under my skin. "Go home," I repeated, my voice low, vibrating with a rage I'd never felt before. "You've got to be kidding me, Taylor. You think I'm just going to walk away?" After this, she didn't flinch. In fact, she smirked, a cruel twist of her lips, like this was some game she was playing. "Yeah, Jake, I do. What do you think is going to happen here?" You're gonna scream, throw a fit in front of all these people? You're embarrassing yourself. Embarrassing myself? The sheer audacity of her words made me want to grab the nearest bottle and hurl it across the room. She wasn't even trying to explain herself. No apologies. No remorse. She was treating me like I was an inconvenience, a stain on her fun night out. The guy, this smug self-assured prick, decided to pipe up again. Look, man, I don't know what your deal is, but maybe you should listen to her. No need to turn this into a scene. That's when I finally looked at him. For the first time, I took him in tall, built, the kind of guy who probably spent more time in the gym than at a real job. His shirt was too tight. His hair gelled back in that perfect douchebag way. He had this air of superiority, like he was untouchable, like he knew he had won. Who the hell are you? I asked, my voice trembling as I fought to keep control. How long has this been going on? The prick shrugged, sipping his drink like I was an afterthought. Long enough, but don't take it personally, man. It's just how it is sometimes. Just how it is. I felt my blood surge, a red haze creeping into my vision. Every muscle in my body tensed, the weight of his words sinking in. Long enough. That could mean months. Hell, it could mean years. I thought about all the times Taylor had come home late. The business trips, the mysterious phone calls. Had this asshole been there the whole time? Laughing at me, behind my back. I took a step closer, my fist curling at my sides. What did you just say? Taylor finally intervened, stepping between us, but not out of fear. She didn't care that I was on the verge of losing control. No, she was doing it for him, protecting him. Jake, stop. This is pathetic. You're not going to fight him. You're not that guy. She was right. I wasn't that guy. I wasn't the type to solve things with my fists, but at that moment all I wanted to do was swing. I wanted to make him feel the pain I was feeling. To break something, anything to make the world feel as broken as I did. But her words stopped me cold, not because she was right, but because of the way she said it. You're not that guy. She said it like she knew me better than I knew myself, like I was weak, predictable, and too much of a coward to act. And maybe she was right. Maybe that's how she saw me. This boring, predictable husband she could manipulate and cheat on, knowing I'd never fight back. It made me sick to think that's what I'd become in her eyes, and worse, maybe it's what I'd become in my own. I felt something shift inside me, something heavy and dark. I wasn't going to let her walk all over me anymore. I wasn't going to stand there like a fool while she tore my life apart and laughed in my face. So this is it, I said, my voice barely above a whisper, shaking with the weight of all the hurt and anger bubbling up inside me. This is who you are now. Taylor gave me a hard look, crossing her arms like she was bored of the whole thing. This is who I've always been, Jake. You just never noticed. Her words hit harder than any punch ever could. This was who she'd always been. My mind raced back to the early days of our relationship. How we'd stay up talking for hours. How she made me feel like the center of her world. Was all of that a lie? Was I just too blind to see the real Taylor beneath the surface? And him. I gestured to the guy standing behind her, still looking like he couldn't care less. Is this what you wanted? She shrugged. It's not about him. It's about me. I'm done pretending to be the person you think I am. I'm done with this whole charade. I want something different. Something more after everything we'd been through, all the sacrifices, the plans for the future, the life we built together. She wanted more? My head spun, the weight of her betrayal crushing down on me. And you didn't think to talk to me? I asked, my voice cracking. You didn't think to tell me you weren't happy? Instead, you just went behind my back and did this. She rolled her eyes. That familiar gesture of disdain she'd perfected over the years. Why would I? You wouldn't have listened. You never listened, Jake. It's always about what you want, what you think we should be. I'm done living for you. I felt like I was drowning in her words. How had it come to this? How had I missed it? The slow unraveling of everything we'd built together. Or had it been this way all along, and I was just too blind, too trusting to see the cracks forming beneath the surface? I took a deep breath, my chest tight, my heart pounding in my ears. So, what now? I asked, my voice hollow. You just walk away? Throw everything away like it meant nothing. Taylor looked at me, and for a split second, I thought I saw something, guilt, maybe regret. But it was gone as quickly as it came, replaced by that same cold, detached expression. Yeah, Jake, that's exactly what I'm doing. And with that, She turned her back on me, literally turned around and walked back to the couch, sat down next to the guy, and picked up her drink as if I didn't exist anymore. Like I was just some ghost haunting the edges of her new exciting life. I stood there numb, frozen in place, my fists still clenched but useless now. What was I supposed to do? Fight him? Drag her out of there? Beg her to come back? I felt hollow, like a piece of me had been ripped out and discarded on the floor of that club. Right there in front of everyone. I was nothing to her now. Nothing. I left the club in a daze. The pounding bass fading into the distance as the cold night air hit my face. My legs carried me outside, but my mind was still back in that VIP room, watching Taylor walk away like I was nothing. Like we were nothing. I don't even remember getting to my car. I just remember sitting in the driver's seat, staring at the steering wheel, hands shaking. My phone buzzed again. Another message from that same unknown number. You saw what you needed to see. Time to get the truth. What the hell did that mean? The truth? As if what I just witnessed wasn't enough. As if there was more to this nightmare than my wife having an affair in front of me with some gym bro she probably met on one of her so-called business trips. But something in the pit of my stomach told me to keep reading to see where this was going. Then another text came through with an address. Place downtown not too far from where I was. Go there. Now. I hesitated. Whoever was texting me clearly had a vested interest in destroying whatever was left of my life. First, they sent me that video, then the location of Taylor's little date night. Now this, I wanted to ignore it, throw my phone out the window, and never look back, but I couldn't. I needed answers. I needed to know how deep this rabbit hole went. Without thinking, I started the car and drove. The streets blurred past me as my mind raced. Who was behind this? Was it someone from Taylor's work? An old friend? Or was this all some elaborate scheme to screw with me? When I pulled up to the address, my heart sank. It was an apartment building, one of those luxury ones with a doorman, fancy glass windows, and balconies overlooking the city. I parked across the street, staring at the building, the knot in my stomach tightening. Why here? Who lived here? Another buzz. Third floor, apartment 307. My head spun as I got out of the car. The whole thing felt surreal, like I was walking into a trap, but couldn't stop myself. I took the elevator up, my heart pounding in my chest, unsure of what I was about to walk into. When I reached the door to apartment 307, I hesitated. My fist raced to knock, but before I could, the door opened. A woman stood there, staring at me with tired red-rimmed eyes. She looked like she hadn't slept in days, her face pale, hair pulled back in a messy bun. I didn't recognize her at first, but something about her seemed familiar. Her clothes were casual, jeans and a sweatshirt, but the sadness in her eyes told me she wasn't just some random person. Are you Jake? She asked quietly, her voice hoarse like she'd been crying. I nodded, feeling the knot in my stomach twist even tighter. Yeah, who are you? She stepped aside, motioning for me to come in. You're not the only one who's been lied to. I hesitated for a second before stepping inside, my mind scrambling to catch up. The apartment was small but neat, like someone had put effort into keeping it clean despite the chaos that seemed to hang in the air. On the coffee table, there were half-empty wine glasses and a stack of papers. Bills, documents, things that looked like they'd been hastily thrown aside in frustration. I'm Emily, she said, closing the door behind me, and I think we're in the same mess. I frowned, trying to place her. The name didn't ring any bells, but her face, something about it, seemed connected to all of this. I don't understand. How do you know me? She sighed, running a hand through her hair before sinking into the couch. I didn't nod at first, but I figured it out after my husband started acting weird. He kept going on these trips, working late, always texting someone. I thought maybe it was just stress, you know? But then I found the messages. I found her. My heart stopped. Taylor. I muttered more to myself than to her. Emily nodded. Her eyes filling with tears, she clearly didn't have the energy to shed anymore. Yeah, your wife and my husband have been seeing each other. For almost a year, I think. Her words hit me like a hammer to the chest. A year. I knew Taylor had been distant for a while, but a year, she'd been lying to me, betraying me for that long, and I'd been completely blind. My knees buckled, and I dropped into the chair opposite her, trying to process what she was saying. How did you find me? I asked, my voice shaking. Emily reached for her phone on the coffee table, scrolling through it before handing it to me. I didn't at first, but then I found this. On the screen was a message thread, one between her and Taylor's lover. It was explicit to say the least. Texts about meeting up, about the lies they were telling their spouses, laughing behind our backs. It was all there, but the kicker, there were also texts where he talked about me. He knew you, she said quietly. He knew you were Taylor's husband, and he didn't care. He talked about you like you were some joke, like it was all some twisted game. I stared at the screen, my hands shaking, feeling a mix of fury and nausea twist inside me. Who is he? Emily's face tightened, the anger flaring in her eyes for a moment. His name's Ryan. Ryan Mitchell. We've been married for 5 years, and apparently he's been cheating on me for at least one of them with your wife. The name didn't mean anything to me, but the betrayal cut just as deep. Taylor had been sneaking around with this guy, Ryan, while I worked late, while I planned our vacations, our future. While I tried to fix whatever was wrong, she'd been running off to hotel rooms and clubs laughing at me behind my back. Emily continued, her voice shaking with the same pain I was feeling. I tried confronting Ryan, but he just brushed it off like it didn't matter. Like I didn't matter. And then when I saw your wife in his texts, I knew I had to find you. That was you? I said, the pieces falling into place. You sent me that video. She nodded. I figured you had the right to know. I thought, maybe if we both knew we could do something about it. I sat there in stunned silence, trying to make sense of the mess we were both in. Taylor wasn't just lying to me. She was living a completely separate life with someone else. Someone who didn't even bother to hide it anymore. What do we do now? I asked, not even sure who I was asking. Myself? Her? Emily didn't answer me right away. She just sat there, staring down at her hands, which were trembling slightly. The weight of the situation pressed down on both of us like a thick fog. Taylor, Ryan, the lies, the betrayal. It was too much to take in, and yet I needed to do something. Sitting there in stunned silence, letting this happen to me, to us it wasn't an option anymore. Finally, Emily looked up, her eyes hardening. A steely resolve taking over the sadness that had been there before. We can't just let them get away with this, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. We've been humiliated, lied to, betrayed. They think they're invincible, that we'll just lie down and take it. But we're not doing that. Not anymore. Her words hit me like a spark, igniting something inside that had been simmering since the moment I saw that video. I didn't know what the plan was yet, but she was right. There was no way I was going to let Taylor and her lover keep running circles around me like I was some joke. I wasn't going to sit back and let them continue living their little fantasy at our expense. What are you thinking? I asked, leaning forward, the urgency in my voice matching the storm of anger brewing inside me. Emily looked at me, her expression shifting into something cold, calculating. Ryan doesn't know I know about you. He thinks I'm still in the dark, that I'm just some oblivious wife sitting at home waiting for him to come back from his fake business trips. And Taylor, she's been feeding you lies for so long. She probably thinks you'll just roll over and let her walk away. She paused, taking a deep breath before continuing. We need to hit them where it hurts. I wasn't sure what she meant at first, but then it clicked. You mean expose them? Emily nodded, the anger in her eyes flaring up again. Exactly. We have proof. The texts, the videos, everything. If we play it right, we can rip the rug out from under them before they even see it coming. The thought of exposing Taylor, of tearing down the facade she'd built so carefully, felt strangely satisfying. All the time she'd lied, the way she'd laughed at me. She deserved to be humiliated the way I had been. But it wasn't just about revenge. I needed closure. I needed her to see that I wasn't the fool she thought I was. How do we do it? I asked, feeling a dark sense of purpose creeping in. Emily leaned forward, her eyes locking onto mine with an intensity that sent a shiver down my spine. Here's what I'm thinking. Tomorrow I'm going to confront Ryan, but I'm not doing it alone. You'll be there too. We'll blindside them both. Make them face each other. Make them see what they've done. We confront them together. No more secrets. No more lies. I felt a rush of adrenaline at the thought. A confrontation face to face with both of them at once. The idea of watching Taylor squirm, of seeing the guilt, if she had any, finally hit her, made my pulse race. It was risky. Sure. But after everything, what did I have to lose? Where do we do it? I asked, already imagining how it would play out. I'll invite Ryan over to our apartment tomorrow evening. Tell him I want to have a quiet night in, act like nothing's wrong. You show up about 30 minutes in after he's comfortable. Then we lay everything out together. I could see the scenario in my mind. Ryan, sitting there smug as ever, thinking he had Emily wrapped around his finger only for me to walk in and shatter his little world. Taylor wouldn't be far behind. She always found a way to pop into the middle of these things, especially if it meant stirring up more chaos. Do you think Taylor will come? I asked, wondering if Emily's plan could really work without her. Emily smirked, a sharp edge to her smile. Oh, she'll be there. Once Ryan realizes he's been caught, he'll panic. He'll want to drag her into this mess, thinking maybe they can spin their way out of it together. She won't be able to resist. She'll come. Trust me. I nodded, feeling the plan solidify in my mind. It was perfect in its simplicity. We'd catch them off guard, expose them for the liars they were, and force them to face the consequences of their actions. For the first time in weeks, I felt like I had control. Like I wasn't just a bystander in my own life anymore. But there was something gnawing at me, something I couldn't shake. And then what? I asked quietly. After we confront them, what happens next? Emily's expression softened, the fire in her eyes dimming slightly. Then we walk away. We leave them to deal with the mess they've made. You get your closure, I get mine, and we move on with our lives. Without them, the weight of her words hung in the air. Moving on. Could I do that? Could I just walk away from Taylor after everything we'd been through? The thought of it felt like a knife twisting in my chest, but deep down, I knew it was the only way. There was no saving what we had. She burned it to the ground the moment she decided to betray me. I'm in, I said, my voice firm. Let's do it. Emily nodded, a grim smile on her face. Good. Tomorrow, then. We sat in silence for a few moments, both of us lost in our own thoughts, preparing for what was about to happen. The plan was set. Tomorrow, everything would come crashing down, and there was no going back. As I left Emily's apartment, I couldn't help but feel a strange sense of calm settle over me. The storm inside had quieted, replaced by a clarity I hadn't felt in weeks. Taylor had thought she could get away with it, that I would never find out. But tomorrow she'd see how wrong she was. Tomorrow they'd both see the consequences of their actions. And for the first time in what felt like forever, I wasn't the one in the dark anymore. Tomorrow, everything would change. The next day felt like the longest of my life. Every hour dragged by, and my mind raced through every possible scenario. What would Taylor say when she saw me standing there watching her lies unravel in front of her? Would she panic? Try to lie her way out again? Would she finally admit it? Drop the mask and show me who she really was? And Ryan, what would his face look like when he realized he wasn't the mastermind of some secret affair anymore, but a fool standing on the edge of his own destruction? I had to remind myself to breathe. I couldn't let the anger take over yet. Not until the right moment. Emily had texted me earlier, 8 p.m. Don't be late. I was anything but late. I pulled up a block away from her apartment at 7:45, my heart pounding like a war drum. The neighborhood was quiet. The kind of place where no one would ever suspect two lives were about to be blown apart in a single night. I sat there in the dark, gripping the steering wheel, my mind going over the plan again and again. It had to be perfect. No backing down. No second guessing. At 8 sharp, I got out of the car and walked to the building. Emily had given me the key code for the entrance, so I didn't have to ring the doorbell and risk giving anything away too soon. As I stepped into the hallway, I could feel the tension rising. Every step taking me closer to the moment that would change everything. I reached her door, my hand hovering over the handle for just a second. I could hear faint voices inside. Emily's soft, measured tone and Ryan's deeper voice, casual, relaxed. He had no idea what was about to hit him. I pushed the door open and walked in. The living room was dimly lit. Candles flickering on the coffee table. 2 glasses of wine half full next to a charcuterie board that looked untouched. Emily sat on the couch, her body language tense, but composed. Across from her, Ryan was lounging like he owned the place. One arm draped over the back of the couch, his phone in the other hand. He looked up when I entered, his eyebrows knitting together in confusion. Who the hell is this? he asked, his voice annoyed like I'd interrupted some intimate moment. I didn't say a word. I just stared at him, my fists clenching and unclenching at my sides, willing myself to stay calm. I could feel my pulse in my throat, the anger bubbling up, but I wasn't going to give him the satisfaction of a meltdown. Not yet. Emily stood up, her face tight with barely contained rage. "This is Jake," she said, her voice steady. But I could hear the fury underneath. "Taylor's husband." Ryan blinked his face, going pale for a second before he tried to play it off. He laughed, but it came out hollow forced. "Taylor's husband? What the hell is going on, Emily?" I stepped forward, locking eyes with him, the weight of everything about to come crashing down. "She didn't tell you about me. I guess you two were too busy sneaking around behind my back for that detail to come up." Ryan's mouth opened, but no words came out. He looked from me to Emily, then back again, scrambling for something to say. Some way to explain this mess, but there was no way out now. The truth was already unraveling, and there was no stopping it. "Look, man," he stammered, his voice cracking. "This isn't what it looks like. I don't know what she told you," but Emily cut him off, her voice sharp as a blade. "Oh, I know exactly what's going on, Ryan. I've known for a while. The late nights, the mysterious trips, the constant texting. You think I didn't notice? You think I'm stupid?" Ryan's face twisted into something ugly, defensive, desperate. "Emily, come on. You're blowing this way out of proportion. It's not like that." Emily's laugh was cold, bitter. A sound I'd never forget. "Not like that. You've been screwing Jake's wife for months, Ryan. Don't stand there and act like it's nothing. Don't insult me like that." Ryan's bravado crumbled. He tried to say something, but the words died in his throat. His eyes darted to the door like he was thinking of making a run for it. I stepped closer, blocking his path. He wasn't getting out of this. "And Taylor?" I asked, my voice barely containing the fury I felt. "Where is she, Ryan? Where's my wife?" Ryan's face twisted again, this time into something more pathetic. She's on her way," he muttered. "She was supposed to meet me here." I could feel my heart pounding, the reality of the situation sinking in. Taylor was on her way, and soon she'd walk into this trap. No more lies, no more games. The thought of seeing her face when she realized it was over, when she saw the wreckage she'd caused, made the adrenaline surge through me. The seconds ticked by like hours. I could feel the tension in the room thickening. Ryan sitting there like a caged animal. Emily pacing the floor, her anger barely contained. And me, I was a storm waiting to explode. Then the doorbell rang. Emily shot me a look, her eyes sharp with anticipation. "Showtime," she whispered. I stepped back, standing by the wall, as Emily went to open the door. My heart pounded in my ears, my blood rushing, every muscle in my body tense. I didn't know what I was going to do when I saw her, whether I'd scream, cry, or simply stand there in stunned silence. The door creaked open, and there she was, Taylor, standing in the doorway, looking flawless as ever. Hair perfectly styled, makeup immaculate, wearing that black dress that always drove me crazy. She had a smile on her face, but the moment she saw me, that smile vanished, replaced by a look of shock and confusion. "Jake," she whispered, taking a step back. "What are you doing here?" I stepped forward, my eyes never leaving hers. "I could ask you the same thing, Taylor. What are you doing here?" Her mouth opened and closed, no words coming out at first. She glanced over at Ryan, her eyes wide with panic, and then back at me. The silence was suffocating. "I can explain," she finally said, her voice trembling. "Explain what?" I shot back, my voice rising. "That you've been screwing him behind my back. That you've lied to me, humiliated me, for months? Go ahead, Taylor. I'd love to hear this explanation." Taylor's eyes darted around the room, searching for something. An escape maybe, but there was none. She was trapped just like Ryan, and she knew it. "This isn't what you think," she stammered, her voice weak, pathetic. "I didn't mean for it to happen, Jake. It just did." I laughed, the sound bitter hollow. "It just did? That's your excuse? You didn't mean for it to happen, but you kept going over and over again. You think that makes it better?" Tears welled up in her eyes, but I wasn't moved. Couldn't be. Not after everything. "I'm sorry," she whispered. But the words felt empty, meaningless. Emily stepped forward, her voice cutting through the tension like a knife. Sorry doesn't fix this, Taylor. You and Ryan. Both of you have destroyed everything. You've lied, cheated, and for what? Because you were bored? Because you wanted more? Ryan tried to interject, but I silenced him with a look.